She doesn't say who it's from.
No. Hello. Hey everybody. Hi. Hi guys. Alright, as promised, I'm going to make royal icing with you today. Give me 1 second. Hi. Alright, so this is the recipe that's on my website. It's not my recipe, it's from Sugardoo, but I modified it just a little bit and I did put it on my website for you guys to find easily. I'm going to try to watch it on my computer to see if you have any questions as we go, but if I don't catch it, ask it again and I'll try to catch the question. So, for this recipe, we're going to get right into it. This is going to be, you're driving. All right, well, don't drive off the road, Anita. Hi. Hey, everyone. All right, so for this recipe, we're going to use 2 pounds of confectionery sugar, powdered sugar. Good morning. Hey, it's afternoon here, actually. It's almost 1 o'clock. And we're going to start with meringue powder. I prefer CK products. I know a lot of people use Wilton. That's totally fine. This recipe works either way. I think it's really just a taste preference. So I have some already in a tub here. So we're going to start with 6 tablespoons of meringue powder. So we go. And I have the whisk attachment on my, I start with the whisk attachment on my mixer. Alright, so we've got 3. I probably shouldn't talk while I'm doing this because I'm going to lose count. 4, 5, and 6. Okay. You just pulled into Target. Ooh, I have to go to Target. Can you get me some stuff? Alright, and 1 tablespoon of cream of tartar. I'm sorry, 1 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon. So cream of tartar, there is some already in the meringue powder usually, but I like to add a little more. All right, and then we're gonna add a 1/2 cup of warm water, which I already have here, okay? And we're gonna put in our whisk, and our goal here is to get this to double in size. So, I don't know if you can see better. Here's what we're starting with. We want this to double in size. And that's about it. You don't need to over whisk it. I've got it on high. This should only take about a minute or 2. Really. You can double this recipe so easily, so it could take a little longer. I'm just gonna scrape the sides down here just for a second, just to make sure all the powder's in there. But see how it's starting to get frothy? That's what you want. You want it to get frothy and airy. All right, I'm gonna let this go a little bit more. I never get all off the sides to incorporate. Oh, you will use a spatula. That should help. You can stop this mid-mixing. All right, we're almost there. All right, I think we're good. So this has doubled. It's, you know, got a nice froth to it. Think like cappuccino. And now the next part is to add our flavorings. So for this recipe, we're going to use vanilla. So 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Is there a difference between using the whisk versus the paddle? I start with the whisk and then actually change over to the paddle, which actually I'll just do right now. I don't know, for me, I just feel like the whisk probably helps it double and get aerated faster, but the whisk is more of a pain to work with. once you add the sugar in. So then I switch over to the paddle, so I'm going to do that now. All right, now I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I have a good vanilla here. Now, I know some people use clear vanilla because they don't like that this tints their icing ever so slightly, but I've never done that because I just think it tastes horrible. So I like to use a good vanilla. Usually you're going to end up going back and adding white to your icing anyway, so it really doesn't make a difference. This is something I thought was weird when I first saw this recipe, but adding a little artificial butter flavor. I thought it was weird. I went with it anyway, and it's actually delicious. So if you smell this, oops, oh, this is a new one. Hold on. It smells like butter. It almost smells like butter popcorn, but I think it adds a nice creaminess to the icing taste. Now, normally I would add fresh lemon juice. I'm out of lemons. You saw yesterday I didn't put it in my cookie dough. Usually at this point I would add the fresh lemon juice of whatever lemon I zested when I made my cookies. I'm not going to do it today. Keep in mind the lemon juice adds a lot of liquid to it, so you might end up, altering the amount of water to your final concoction. Anything that's liquid is going to change it. So we added our vanilla, our butter, and that's it. So now we're just going to mix this just a little bit just to incorporate it. Alright, that's it, just to get it going. Now we're going to add, so I have, again, this recipe is using a 2-pound bag. I'm actually going to dump in about half of this first. And you don't need to measure it down to 1 pound. You can just eyeball it. So I'm just going to kind of grab it in the middle and dump this in. All right. And we're going to mix this up a little. Maybe start on low if you don't want it to fly everywhere. So obviously this is very liquidy. I'm just going to wipe down the sides just a little bit. Okay. Now the next step in this recipe is to add some essential oils work. Well, not the kind you make candles with, right? You mean like, oh, what's the word? Someone say the word. I can't remember the word. I don't tend to use them because I just don't like a lot of those flavorings. But yes, you could add like a emulsion. That's the word, emulsion. You could use an emulsion. Just be careful because they're really strong, so you definitely don't want to add too much at once. All right, the next part is to add 1 tablespoon of, thank you, emulsions, yes. Light corn syrup. So what this does is a couple things. It's going to add a little bit of shine to your royal icing. Another thing that I think it does well is it makes your royal icing a little more elastic and a little more fluid. So I think it helps when you're piping, like you won't, it won't break off while you're piping, say a straight line or piping your outside edge of your cookie. So we put our 1 tablespoon in, and now we're just going to mix this up a little. And now we're going to add the last pound of the confectionery sugar. How many tablespoons? It was 1 tablespoon of the Caro. And again, this recipe is on my website, thecookiecountess.com. There's a link on the main header that says recipes. If you can hear my dog whimpering in the background, I'm sorry. He gets like anxious when I talk, and he's crying that he wants a cookie. So when we're done, I'll give him a cookie. All right, so I added the last pound of sugar. And so this is going to get really, really thick, okay? This does not make a watery, like flood consistency icing. We're going to start really thick. So I'm going to keep it on low. So it's just now starting to kind of incorporate. It looks chunky almost. Again, I didn't add the lemon juice, so it's going to be a lot thicker than even I'm used to. All right, so obviously at this point it's crazy thick. I don't use glycerin. I know a lot of people do. I don't. I tried it before and I didn't really find a difference, so I didn't use it anymore. Okay, here's another trick. Use a spray bottle, and I learned this from, oh, what's her name? Oh gosh, someone else say it. I know you all know this. One Tough Cookie. She said use a spray bottle, especially when you're mixing up a small bowl of color or something. That way you don't dump in way more water than you need, because a little water goes a long way. Alright, so I'm going to keep adding water. So we've got some nice thick icing here. So you can see it's really thick. It's even thicker than you'd probably pipe with. Now you have a couple options here. I'm just going to add a smidge more water, but barely any more. I'm just so I can get in the kind of unmixed little bits that are up here. Hold on. Can you overmix it? You can overmix your royal icing. You'll end up I think it adds just more air to your icing, which you don't want, because then you're going to end up with more air bubbles. All right, hold on. Let's add just a little bit more water. Oh, I'm sorry if I'm getting my head in the way. Milo, stop crying. All right, I'm going to mix this just a little more. Stop here. So as you can see, this is really, really thick. Now, a couple reasons why I like to stop here is, for one thing, if I'm going to store this, you're better off storing it really, really thick, because as you store icing, and you can store it at room temperature or in your refrigerator, the water will start to separate. So the less water you have, the less separation you'll have, and the less you'll have to remix it later. If you get a lot of separation, you can always put it back in your mixer and it'll remix pretty well. Another reason I like to start with a thicker icing is because then you can pull out what you want. Like, let's say you know you're gonna, I don't know, outline in one color and flood in another color. Well, why add all that water and then have to add more sugar back in if you're going to need it for piping? And when you color your icing, you're adding a liquid to it. So you really want to start thick. All right. And let me think, what else do I want to tell you about this? Anybody have any questions that you want to throw up on the screen there? I'm going to take this off now. Now, you know I like to talk about stenciling a lot since that's my main business. And I would say this is about the consistency I like for stenciling. So super thick. You could go, you know, a little less thick, but will you take us through the consistency of piping and show us? I probably won't today, but that could be something we do another time for sure. This would be a little thick for piping, I think. Do I ever freeze it? I have frozen my icing before. Let me think. I definitely have. It'll still separate. You'll probably have to put it back in your mixer. But you could freeze it. I usually just throw mine in the fridge, and then once it gets too old, or I just toss it. I don't know. I know there's a lot of discussion about how long the icing lasts. But I try not to make a whole lot more than what I need for the next, like, say, a couple weeks. What was the question? Oh, 20-second icing. You know, we should all tell Callie she's got to do that on Periscope, because she's really the queen of that. What I think I'm going to do in a little while is I'm going to show you the consistency on dipping cookies and show you how to dip cookies, because I think that's my plan for the ones I baked this morning. Any other questions about the icing? I freeze. I never have to put it back in the mixer. Oh, good. That's awesome to hear. Good. That's great. That's one less step you have to do, right? It's all about saving time and being efficient. So, all right. So I think that's it. Again, the recipe's on my website, thecookiecountess.com. I thank you for watching. And this is a delicious recipe. The butter flavor adds a lot. And also, I know I didn't put it in, which I hate that I didn't put it in, but the lemon juice I think really, really helps the taste, and it cuts the sugar. I know some people don't like confection. What is this called? Royal icing. Some people don't like royal icing because it's so sweet. So the butter and then the lemon juice helps cut that sweetness. All right. So thank you for watching. And I am going to try to get all this stuff up on my YouTube channel too. When are you going to dip? I'm going to dip soon. I got to get myself set up. I have time to do it before my son gets off the bus, so I should be able to do it today, maybe in a half an hour. I don't know. How much lemon juice? I eyeball it. For this, I would probably do either the juice of 1 large lemon or 2 small lemons, whatever I had put the zest of into my cookies. So that way you'd use the whole lemon. It's really up to you. You can just do it by taste. My stencils mail to Mexico without trouble? If you're in Mexico, I do mail to Mexico. They might take a little longer. I will say Mexico is probably one of the countries I see the longest shipping time in. If you have another way to get them, maybe someone on the border that you could ship them to and then get them, that would get there faster and it would be cheaper for you, but that's really up to you. All right, I'm going to go. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back in a little while. Bye.